All right. Good morning and welcome to the Biz Bros podcast. My name is Kyle Nelson. Got my co-host here, Mr. Eli Libby. What's up, Eli?
Good morning.
Good morning. We're going live this morning. And we have a very special guest that we are very excited to have on the Biz Bros podcast. It's going to be an exceptional conversation. We're excited to be able to go live with this one throughout the interwebs. Knowing you, me and you, most people know that we're pretty sustainable guys. We have our own program here at Results Imagery. We're part of 1% for the Planet. We love the great outdoors.
And today is a perfect guest.
It's going to be
both of those.
Yeah, a great conversation.
Can't wait.
We are very lucky and fortunate to have Mr. Wylie Robinson, the CEO and co-founder of Rumpl. It's going to be awesome to have a conversation. If you're not sure who Rumpl is, Rumpl does those puffy blankets. They were the first ones that come out with them. They're kind of the pioneers of it. And he has an awesome story he's going to talk to us about and how he got started in the back of the van and how he really went for this sustainable movement with his business. So Wylie, welcome to the Biz Bros podcast.
Welcome to the show, man.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, we're stoked, man. It's going to be a great combo. I can't wait to hear the actual story from the horse's mouth.
Ooh, nice.
It's going to be good, man.
I love it. Well, yeah, Wylie. So you're up in Portland, right?
Yep, in Portland, Oregon.
Pretty hot up there. It's definitely very hot.
Crazy heat wave. I actually was able to escape with my my wife and son this weekend, but it was like 115 or something.
Oh,
yeah. Wow. Where did you guys go this weekend?
We went to San Francisco.
Nice.
I'm from San Francisco. My parents still live down there, so we just escaped down there for a couple of days.
Wow.
I'm originally from Santa Rosa, so pretty close to San Francisco.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again for being here, Wylie. Super excited to have you on the show, and really excited. I've been a fan of the brand, same with Kyle, for a long time. We've purchased a couple of them, so super familiar with the product. But like Kyle said, hearing it from the horse's mouth, I think that's a great way to put it. And, let's jump right in.
Yeah, man. I think maybe first, just for the people that are listening that don't know who Rumpl is or what Rumpl is or what you guys stand for, maybe you can kind of go into that, and then we'll kind of go into the story and the movement.
Sure. So Rumpl's mission is to introduce the world to better blankets, and we think about that in a couple of pretty simple ways. The first is blankets are like some of the oldest textiles ever created. Like literally some of the first textiles ever discovered are in fact blankets. And there's really been almost no material innovation in the category, despite all of this amazing technology and material science taking place in outdoor gear, athletic apparel. We've seen like the emergence of athleisure in the last 20 years as a huge billion-dollar category. And really like none of that textile technology has flown through into this everyday blanket category. So the first thing we try to do is to really elevate the category from a material standpoint.
Okay.
And the second piece is really trying to layer in some brand connection and emotive connection to a product category that is really like highly emotive in nature. So you wrap up in a blanket to feel warm and comfortable and safe, and you have this like very like emotional relationship and experience with the product.
Right.
But despite that fact, very few people can name a household brand name of blankets. There's no Nike of blankets, for instance, but most households bought into the category, to the same tune that they might be shoes. Like I ask people often how many blankets you have in your household, and they'll count them up and they'll say, wow, I've probably got 20 blankets in my house. And very, very few people can name a single brand of blanket. So the way we do that, it's a little more nuanced. The textile piece, the first one I mentioned is kind of on the head. That's like really easy to kind of grasp. But the second piece there about it, sort of weaving in some brand connection into the category is done through things like our sustainability commitments, our artist partnerships, just like bringing the brand to life in real life, digitally, and with our consumers. So that's something that's a little more nuanced and not talked about as overtly in our marketing and brand presentation. Yeah. But that's like sort of the key secret sauce, I would say, of Rumpl.
Wow. There's so many different ways we can go with that. I think it relates everything that we talk about in terms from like a branding perspective.
Right.
I love that point. Question before we dive in, where did Rumpl come from? Where did that name come from? How did you come up with that? I've always been curious what that is.
So the name is an onomatopoeia. In other words, the product kind of behaves like the word sounds, like Slurpee, for instance.
Okay.
And so this was one of those things, there's like just a small handful of these instances I can think of in my lifetime where I had an idea for something and it's just like, that's the idea. Didn't even really need to toy around with any other names. It was just like that one kind of came to me, and it was like
light bulb.
It's a Rumpl.
Rumpl. Exactly.
Put up.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's so cool, man. So, let's go back to your early days. Were you raised in San Francisco?
Yep. Yep. My parents have been in the same house in San Francisco for 40 years or so. So, yeah. Not many people grew up in the city.
Yeah, really.
That is very true. Wow.
So you're on a trip, right? You're surfing, ski trip with your buddy.
Yeah. So I was on a surfing ski trip with a friend of mine. We were both working at design agencies at the time, and we had, maybe like 10 days off during holiday period. And so we decided to hop in the car and travel down the coast of California surfing. And then we were going to head east and kind of come up through the Sierra and ski on the way back up to San Francisco. So we did that whole first leg surfing down and kind of finished in San Diego. It was great. And then we headed east and headed into Mammoth area. And we were going to camp there near Bishop, near some hot springs that we knew of. And we woke up the next morning and it had been like the coldest night on record in Bishop that previous night. And it totally froze our car. We couldn't turn it over. It wasn't making any noise. And we were in this situation where we pretty much had to just wait for somebody to show up. We were too far to walk anywhere. We were out of cell phone reception. And we kind of just had to like hunker down in our sleeping bags and wait for somebody to arrive and get us help. We got really fortunate that somebody showed up at this spot to do some like drone photography, because it was this recently snowed on area that doesn't get a lot of snow normally. And somebody came in to take some photographs, and we got really lucky there. But we were waiting for several hours for somebody to show up, and hanging out in our sleeping bags, trying to stay warm. And during that time, we started talking about how we really liked our sleeping bags so much more than our duvet covers and blankets on our beds back home. And we both admitted that, often we would wash our duvet cover, and then because we didn't want to deal with like shaking the comforter back into the duvet cover, we would just pull our sleeping bags out and put them on our beds. And so we both agreed that like we should make a sleeping bag blanket, basically is what we called it. And we would just take the same materials used in sleeping bags and make a square blanket out of it that didn't have a zipper and didn't have sort of like the form factor of a sleeping bag. Super simple idea.
Right.
And really not a lot to it. So when we finally got out of there, we got back to San Francisco. We went to a fabric store. We sewed up 2 of these things. We both had them on our beds. And I should mention that like the original idea for Rumpl was like really an on-bed product. And we both ended up taking these things and sort of like using them on our beds, but then, bringing them out for hanging out in the park with friends or going to concerts or whatever we would be doing in San Francisco. And a bunch of our friends saw the products and they were like, wow, this is a really cool idea. I think I'd be interested in something like this. And it really showed us how versatile the product can actually be. So that's when we said, all right, let's do a Kickstarter and see if other people want to do this. And that's really how the brand launched. We did a Kickstarter in December of 2013 and ended up raising, or I shouldn't say raising, but pre-sold about $250,000 worth of product through that platform. And that really told us that like this is a viable idea. And people want products like this. When the Kickstarter was like really doing well, and we realized, a couple days in that this is going to be a successful campaign and far exceed our goals, that's when we really started thinking about the category of blankets. Right. And the fact that there has been very little material innovation. There's no recognizable brands that sort of like own the category. There's no Nike of blankets, for instance. So that told us that there's like growth opportunity and product extensions and things like that we could do within the umbrella of blankets.
Yeah. Wow.
So
what a story.
Yeah, that's insane. It's just like you found a need and then you created a solution.
Yeah, and something so simple that didn't have any recognizable.
Definitely feeling like one of those moments when I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So are the original Rumpls that you guys created, is that like behind like glass right now in the Museum of Rumpl, or where are those at?
No, I've actually got it in my house here. It's downstairs in my basement, which is just kind of a mess right now. So otherwise I'd go get it. But yeah, it's really simple. It's not sewn very well. I mean, I sewed it myself, and I still to date have not really done a whole lot more sewing. I'm a very inexperienced sewer. So it's kind of this weird wonky shape. It's not even a perfect square. There's like all sorts of jogging and the stitch lines and everything, but it got the job done and sort of like was a proof of concept for these types of materials for this use case.
Wow. So did the Kickstarter really like shape the brand? Like, is that kind of where it started to evolve to kind of more of an outdoors brand versus that kind of on bed brand? Or when did the split happen? Because it's clearly more, correct us if we're wrong, but it is more of an outdoorsy brand, right? It veered away from the on bed brand. And did Kickstarter really help segregate that?
Yeah, I mean, so originally the positioning of the brand and products during Kickstarter was, I'll try to sort of like paraphrase this. It was basically like, you know, we're two guys that love the outdoors and outdoor gear. We like these materials a lot more than the sort of analog materials, if we want to call them that, the non-techie materials that we see in homeware and on our beds. We think that we should apply some of these materials to on-bed products. And so that was sort of like the positioning of why this product was created. We ended up really showcasing the product a lot more in the outdoors. Like our content strategy for the first easily year of the business was entirely user generated. We almost did no content creation ourselves. We sent out tons of samples to photographers just on Instagram and things like that. And you know, people oftentimes are not going to be taking pictures of their beds or like their couch or something. They're going to be taking pictures of themselves in beautiful places.
Totally.
So the use case that was really proliferated through our content was outdoor. I do still think that, I know that we have a lot of customers that still use the product watching TV. So the sort of going back to your question, just like has the brand evolved to outdoor? I think that our content and our use case is most widely demonstrated in the outdoors. We're certainly sold at more outdoor retailer wholesale accounts. But I do still believe that the use case is really kind of versatile, where people are bringing it out with them camping, but also just using it in home on their couch.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a pretty fascinating point, and something that we constantly talk about, not on the podcast, but what we're involved in on a day-to-day. But your guys' branding is so dialed. I believe your guys' branding is some of the best in the outdoor industry, which you guys have, not only from the sustainability piece, which we'll talk about, but just where you guys go with that kind of direct to consumer, pulling on the heartstrings of that individual you're trying to target. I think you guys' branding is on point, and the photography and the video production is killer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool brand.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds silly, but like it's hard to do that. Like it's hard to like create a brand that's like wanted, and like when you get it, it's almost, I don't want to say status, but it's like this. Yeah, I got a Rumpl. Like I don't have the off brand. Like I don't know. It's kind of, I don't want to say a status symbol, but you know what I'm saying. You've made a really cool brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And a blanket. Like
it's a blanket.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that first thing I was talking about, just like sort of how we view elevating the category. It's kind of like there's two key pillars of how we do that. There's materials, and then there's branding. And the materials piece of it is like not proprietary in any way. I mean, as you mentioned, there are like tons of off-brand, non Rumpl that are pretty much the same thing from a functionality and experience standpoint. But what I believe elevates Rumpl and makes it sort of the category leader is all the work we do on the brand side. And that's what sort of gives people this emotional connection to the product that they might not have with something that's unbranded or white labeled or whatever that they buy on Amazon.
Yeah, I think an example for the listeners out there that aren't quite familiar with Rumpl, just think of Yeti. Yeti did it with their brand. You can spend $150 on the same thing or buy a Yeti for $400. Yeah, it's like the same product. It's cool because you have Yeti.
You feel engaged with that brand. You feel like that true rugged outdoorsman with their bear cooler that.
We talk about Yeti all the time as sort of like a comp brand that we'd like to emulate. They took a ubiquitous category that's been around for decades, hundreds of years, and injected, some technology, but not anything too crazy into the category, but really built a brand around it. And that's essentially what we're trying to do with Rumpl.
So tell us a little bit more about the timeline from a sales perspective. So launch Kickstarter, it gets funded. You go into manufacturing. You move into like a direct to consumer model at that point, right? Selling on online channels, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we did do a little bit of wholesale. We had relationships with Huckberry, a couple of like discount kind of drop sites like Match Drop and Grommet and Touch of Modern and things like that. I mean, honestly, those first couple of years were just like, who will take us? Exactly. And can we service these requests? Is the channel right from a brand perspective? Does it decrease the value of the brand? And there was very little at that time that would decrease the value of the brand. So we basically sold to anybody that was interested.
Nice.
Wow. At what point did you get into some of these big box retailers? Like
REI and
Yeah,
So like
REI.
REI came pretty quick, actually.
Wow.
We had our first PO from REI in year 2.
Okay.
And it scaled really quickly from there. So they did like a 16-door test. I think it was 16 or 18 doors at the beginning.
Okay.
That sold through really fast. And then that same season, that same year, that same season, they actually expanded to all doors.
Wow. That is
And
amazing.
so, yeah, we did a lot to drive sell-through too.
Yeah.
You know, we made sure that we clinic staff. We did all we could to get people aware that this product was being sold at REI.
Mhm.
We even ran some ads, like paid for ads, telling people to go buy at REI, which is most people would tell you that's not the best strategy if you're a company that also runs your own website. But we did that, and
to get foot traffic into REI to get them to pay attention.
Mhm.
Yep,
That's super smart.
exactly.
And today, what is kind of the largest sales channel for you guys? Is it website, online, Amazon?
Yeah, our website is definitely our biggest. That represents about a little over half the business. And then the rest is sort of made up by, we have a small Amazon presence. We do US wholesale, and we're about over 800 doors now, with various retailers. And then we've got a small international footprint. And then we also have a little kind of like quiet piece of the business that's sort of like corporate and custom SMU product. So embellished product. If you guys wanted to get a Biz Bros embellished Rumpl, you could do that.
That would be sweet.
Yep.
Think about that.
That is really, really cool.
Oh, you just pump me up.
Yeah.
It's a good gift for businesses.
Totally. It's
There's
a
no
very
reason to just get, you know, you can get the same product for your entire staff of 400. And it's not like you got to get sizing and all that stuff.
That is really, really cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea. Like you're getting us thinking about stuff.
So when was the big decision to really like go, you know, everything 100% post-consumer recycled material, 1% for the planet? Was that like right off the bat? Was that part of the mission and vision, or was that like, okay, like we're using a lot of like non-recycled items, we really should start fixing our footprint?
Yeah, in the beginning, like in 2014, 2015, we were really just focused on performance, product performance. Yep. And at the time, we didn't have a super robust sourcing team or anything. So we didn't have access, of course, to like all the different materials that were available. But what we were seeing out there, we couldn't find a post-consumer shell material that we felt was as good as the virgin nylon we were using. Tear strength wasn't as good. Hand feel wasn't as good. Cost wasn't as good. And so we did virgin materials for about the first, 3-4 years. And then in 2019, fall 2019 is when we really transitioned everything over to post-consumer recycled. So obviously that development period started in midway through 2018. So that really like happened maybe 3-4 years into the business being operational.
Wow. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. I feel like getting off the ground, you're just trying to make a good product, and then more capital kind of flowing in, you can distribute the funds a little bit.
In fact, we honestly didn't even really change the product from what was sold to customers on Kickstarter for like 4 years. It was basically the exact same product that we sold on Kickstarter. And it was just trying to service demand and optimize costs and get systems built and sell to new people and things like that.
How did the cost per unit change when you guys started doing like recycled items? Was it a big jump, or was it pretty similar? Did it go down?
On some SKUs, there was a difference. On others, there really was an immaterial difference. And like for our main franchise, which is the original Puffy Blanket, it was almost no cost difference. Wow. And we actually made the product a little bigger too. So we were using more material with little cost difference on that.
Wow. I think a lot of people assume that recycled items might cost more, especially like on larger, like.
Yeah. I mean, they used to. When we were first looking at it in 2014, they did cost more to get the same quality.
Right.
And now I think the demand for post-consumer recycled materials is higher. And so more mills are producing this type of content.
Wow. That's really cool. I know there's a brand that I really like in the jacket, snowboard jacket space called Picture Organic. I'm sure you've heard of them. They do recycled water bottles, very similar thing, but similar mission too. I think that's a pretty relatable brand. Wylie, with the certified B Corporation, how was that process? I know some of our listeners might be interested in that. Right now, I know there's like some 2 or 3 year backup for all these companies that are applying to be a B Corp. How was the process going through that, and when did you set that up?
We started that process kind of beginning of 2020. And
pretty new.
We were approached, so we officially became B Corp certified this year in 2021.
Wow.
We were approached by a student at Western Colorado University that was doing an MBA program with a focus on sustainability. And for his capstone final project, he really wanted to find an outdoor company that was interested in B Corp certification and kind of project manage that process for them. So he approached Rumpl. We talked through what it might look like, what the workload might look like, what the costs might look like, and we worked on it together with him. But he was really sort of like the quarterback for that project. He and I met every week for a couple hours and talked through all the different things, all the different checkpoints we had to meet. I put him in touch with all of our different suppliers and all the things that are entailed in that. And it is a beast of work. I do not want to undermine the amount of work that was. And if we hadn't had him making sure that I was checking in once a week on this, I just really don't know if it would have been done. If you're a small company and looking to get B Corp certified, do not underestimate the amount of work it takes to do it. It's a huge amount of work.
Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. That is so cool. So yeah, I mean, 1% for the planet. When did that come about? Is that kind of around the same time, or what was the feeling behind that one?
That's right. Sorry, I forgot to mention that aspect. So we actually started a relationship with 1% for the planet. I believe it was 2016, maybe.
Okay.
So 2 years in, but we just did it with individual SKUs. So certain products would benefit certain 1% for the planet affiliates. And we really became full company-wide 1% for the planet in 2020. And that was a big change. We would do certain prints. If you're familiar with Rumpl, there's a really, really broad print assortment. And so certain prints like this one would benefit raincoast conservation, or this one would represent some sort of water conservation, like all these different groups that work with 1% of the planet. We would flow money through sales of these individual SKUs into 1% for the planet. So we made the decision in 2020 to just go all in with this full company breadth. And now 1%, all sales across the board go to 1%.
What's really cool about that is it's a full-on partnership with them.
Yeah.
It's not just like you're donating 1%. You're actually producing product and then putting the ad dollars behind it. And then you're giving people meaning and feeling rather than just saying I'm supporting this company, but they actually receive a product and they actually feel their dollars going to work. It's like an emotional experience for them.
Again, going back to that emotional connection that you're building with the customer. I mean, that's a great way to do it.
Yep.
Amazing.
Wow. That is so cool. We were at Outdoor Retailer a couple years ago in Colorado, and I remember seeing you guys' booth, and you touched on it earlier on in the show, but about your artists and some of the artists that work with you guys. Tell us a little bit more about that and some of the customization and the artists you select, and go through that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is a program that we've really ramped up in the last 2 years, I would say. Okay. We identified fairly early on that the product we make is just a perfect canvas for artists. So we've been doing it here and there for the last 4 or so years, but we really kind of put some thought into and strategy into the program and relaunched it, now called the RAD program, which is the Rumpl Artist Division. And we try to do a handful of these prints every season. I would say that there are a couple of things that we look for when we're collecting artists. First and foremost, we need to find art that we think will look good on our product. We want to make sure that above all else, the product ends up looking good and people are going to want to buy it. The second most important thing I would say is if it advances some sort of brand priority, whether that's a message that we're telling, increasing diverse representation in the outdoor industry, things like that we make sure are important brand priorities that come through with these collaborations. Additionally, we would look to an artist that might expand the reach or breadth of the brand. We're doing some interesting work next year with some home artists, home influencers, home artist type people, as we continue to expand that category. And then I would say the fourth thing would just be if there's some sort of intangible cool factor about this artist, maybe they have a gigantic following, or they're kind of on the up and up with regard to trend and fashion. Right. So we look for people like that as well that could advance those priorities.
Wow, that is really, really
That's
cool.
Sweet.
Is there any design, anything you guys have done in the past that really stands out to you and kind of maybe your pinnacle or your favorite design so far?
I'm trying to think of what's already come out there because I'm obviously working on future seasons right now with the product team. But I think honestly, the work we've done with Aaron Draplin is some of my favorite.
Okay.
I just really like him as a person, as a character.
Cool.
He's just a super, loud, energetic guy, and he's just fun to work with. I also just love the art for our product. Like that's an example of one where the first thing I mentioned there, the art has to look good on the product. I think that his style is just perfect for what we do. He's got sort of a big, chunky aesthetic, and we've got a big, puffy, product that really receives his art well, I would say.
Wow.
I gotta say, you guys' national park ones are
we're taking it. We're
really
scrolling through them
Those
right
are
now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a program we've seen just continue to do really well, both on our website and also with our wholesale partners. So we're expanding that one pretty considerably in 2022.
And what a cool thing to pick up. I'm assuming they're sold at the parks.
Yeah, sold at the parks. They're sold at a lot of retail accounts. REI carries all of them. A bunch of retail accounts carry them, actually.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's better than a t-shirt. It's something different.
Something you're gonna use.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. So how has the last year with the pandemic affected your guys' sales? We all know the outdoor industry really boomed. E-commerce really boomed.
Headed outdoors.
Get away. How did that affect your guys' business?
It really helped us, honestly. Tough saying that, of course, because a lot of people had tough situations. But as you mentioned, the outdoor industry did really well through COVID. Additionally, just comfort in general is sort of a category that's on the rise. People are not buying clothing anymore that's as formal or as fancy. So if I talk to anybody that owns kind of an apparel or a fashion brand, if they have some sort of a leisure or lounge or sport category, that's the category that's really been driving. And so we obviously have a conversation with those customers with our products. And then the third thing that we sort of saw as an unexpected lift was just more broadly home improvement. People are spending a lot of time at home, and so doing things to enhance their living space or maybe enhance their home adjacent outdoor space, like their patio or deck or backyard. We have a good conversation with those customers as well.
Wow.
So what is the main correlation with home improvement in your guys' products? Who is purchasing?
I wouldn't necessarily say home improvement like nails and hardware and building materials, but
I get what you're saying.
if they are spending now 10 hours a day in their living room or their office, maybe they want to buy a new couch and a nice blanket to go on that couch, things like that.
Another product I really like your guys is the poncho.
Yes.
That thing looks comfortable. I need to pick one up.
Yeah. The way we think about the poncho is it's kind of like a material extension of the experience you have with the blanket. So if you're sitting around a fire or something, you've got the blanket on your lap, the poncho allows you to kind of continue that story up to your torso.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, we're taking a look at, we're just kind of scrolling through the site as we talk. And there's a really cool photo here in Bend, which we see on one of the original puffy blankets.
Yeah, that's sweet.
We're kind of stoked on that one.
Yeah.
So what's the evolution of Rumpl look like?
Where's it heading that you can tell us?
Yeah, what's next? Yeah, exactly.
Unless you want to do a big deal right now on the Biz Bros podcast. I don't know.
No, it's not a huge secret. I mean, I share this pretty freely, but we really do think that some of the thinking we've applied to this mostly outdoor product category we've created, we can extend a lot of that thinking into blankets that can be used strictly in the home.
Right.
We've got a really exciting wool blanket that's coming out this fall, just true natural fiber wool. Then next year we've got some more natural fiber products that are coming out. But our goal is really to round out the whole category from what you might use at the campsite all the way to what's on your bed, and apply some of the same design thinking, aesthetics, things like that we've brought into the category, and really kind of round out that whole category from outdoor all the way back onto your bed. So we've done a good job, I think, creating that outdoor assortment with our what we call everywhere blankets. That includes the original puffy, the nano puffy, the down puffy, and the featherlight, sort of in order of least technical to most technical. And we're starting to introduce more indoor products with our Sherpa fleece, Sherpa puffy, and then of course our wool this fall. So really kind of like building into the home. Actually, we've started more outdoor, and we're building closer to the home as we evolve.
Nice.
That is so cool.
I can't wait to see those products.
I can't either. Yep.
Because I'm imagining it'll be kind of I mean, I don't know, but a little bit of a brand change in terms of what these look like and like the prints on them, probably, right?
A little bit. I think that the products that we're doing for home are a little more conservative, just in terms of not quite as like vibrant colors. That's sort of what Rumpl, I would say, is known for, at least in our outdoor products, is the really vibrant, loud colors. So a little softer on the in-home stuff, but definitely still carrying through that sustainability story, definitely carrying through that performance story. There's a lot of performance qualities in our wool product that are brand new for the category that I think are going to be pretty exciting. And just, how we think about the product and the way that we're thinking about the connection that we're trying to build with the customer through that product experience. Beautiful packaging, great graphics, really nice hand feel, performance, sustainability, all that stuff that we don't see currently in the category.
Wow, that is so cool. So we talk a lot about culture too on our show, and engaging employees, getting them really to feel and not to buy into the mission. That sounds wrong, but to really be involved and have kind of a piece of that pie. You've done a great job from an outsider's perspective in getting customers into the brand. We've pulled on the heartstrings. We talked about branding. How does the culture inside of Rumpl feel? How kind of walk us through like are they really pushing that mission, or how does the culture feel within the company?
Yeah, I mean, the word that you said at the beginning of this question, engagement, that is something we track on a quarterly basis with our employees.
Oh, cool.
So we have developed a survey that we send out every quarter that asks questions that really kind of looks into how engaged an employee is with their work. And we view engagement as something as somebody being really sort of like cognitively, emotionally connected to their work. Like they're really involved and care about what they do professionally. So we ask questions in the survey like, how proud am I to work for Rumpl? I believe in what Rumpl is doing as a mission.
That is so
the leaders at Rumpl have communicated a vision and clarity to me that I understand. So we ask questions like that, and I'm really proud to say that we've always been very highly engaged since we started doing this about 7 quarters ago.
Wow.
And it's something that we really care about. I think that because we're sort of a high growth venture backed startup, it's really important for the whole staff, top to bottom, to be like really committed to success.
Absolutely.
And so I would say that one of the red threads that you could draw across all employees at the company, regardless of hobbies or backgrounds or whatever, is that they're really passionate about having a fulfilling and successful professional career. And I think that Rumpl is a place where you can get that. It's definitely not like a punch in, punch out type of place.
Yep.
I would say that the hours we work are not, they're not crazy by any means, but it's certainly more than 9 to 5. And ideally we're getting all the team just fully engaged with what they're doing. So I think a really sort of like simple way to assess that is, you meet somebody at a bar or a party or something. And it's like, tell me about yourself. And they say, well, my name's Wylie, I'm married, I have a kid, and I work at Rumpl. It's kind of like the top, bubbles up the top things you service about yourself.
Yeah.
Communicate who you are.
Way to look at
That's what we look for.
I love that.
That's really cool. Because I mean, if you're proud behind the brand that you work for, it's like it's part of you, and it's
kind
of like that emotional connection. If you can get that with your employees, you've got them hopefully for a long time.
I think particularly too in the outdoor industry, like anybody that's an outdoor enthusiast typically is a steward for the outdoor, and if they're giving back and they're being sustainable, you really want to work and you want to push and support that mission. So I think all the outdoor companies we work with and we've engaged with in the past, very good cultures. I think it's one industry that I've never seen like a bad culture.
Every time I meet with their team members are always like stoked to just get on a call and work together. And
exactly.
Yeah. A lot of engagement. So we have a lot of young entrepreneurs and startup founders that listen to our podcast. And this is not like curveball, but I just, if there's some type of message you have for them to kind of inspire them, or maybe something they need to focus on, just a few lines. Is there something that you usually like to share with those individuals?
I mean, usually if I'm sharing any advice, I have like some context around what the business is, but I would say high level for most entrepreneurs, some things that can help you be successful are really focus what you're doing. Do not do anything that is not part of sort of like an initial plan or an outlook. I think that one of the key things with Rumpl is our focus on this blanket category. early on, it was like very tempting for us to look at other extensions and other, are we going to make sleeping bags and backpacks and jackets and all this other stuff? And because we stayed super focused on just those blankets, and specifically for the first 4 years, it was like just the original puffy blanket, honestly.
Right.
And that really allowed us to focus our messaging, focus our efforts, optimize that part of the business to the best of our ability. That's super helpful because there's just so many distractions early on. The more you can limit that, the more successful I think you'll be.
I would agree 100%.
Yep.
It's so hard. It's so easy to get distracted and start trying to catch butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm the king of that at our office.
Yeah,
I'm constantly out there chasing. What can we do next? But it reels me in.
Yeah.
Oh, I think especially for product companies.
Yeah.
Or goods companies, that's like really anything. But I think, like you said, expanding the category too wide, you just start kind of diluting the brand. So I love it.
Yeah, product and I mean, we ran into some hurdles early on with just sales channel.
Yeah,
focusing your sales channel, focusing your product, focusing your message, where consumers can buy. Like that's all stuff that you can hone in to a finer point. And it's so easy for it to expand and get out of control. So it takes like a lot of diligence to really keep that sharp.
Before we wrap things up, quick question. We're on your all gear, other gear stuff. Like your other random stuff. You guys got like shady pouch, puffy pocket tee, got the beer blankets, the towels. Is there any product that you guys kind of launched that was kind of different that you were like, whoa, this is like actually taking off that you guys were surprised about?
The chamois towel has done really well.
Cool.
And we really introduced that product originally as kind of like a seasonality bridging product. Majority of our sales happen in the back half of the year. It's getting colder. We're closer to holiday. So we needed to come out with something that was going to help drive sales in June, July, August when it's warmer. So we thought a towel was a natural extension for us. And those have done really well.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Well, awesome, Wylie. Well, we're really appreciative of you jumping on the Biz Bros podcast. Love learning about your story and the mission behind Rumpl. If someone's interested in buying a Rumpl or maybe following your journey personally, where can they find you?
I would say that just rumpl.com is the best place. And we've got all of our social links and everything there, but that's sort of the hub of where you can go to get deep on it.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be packaging this up so you guys can share it, and appreciate your guys' time. And looking forward, hopefully, to do maybe a follow-up in a couple of years or something, or maybe in a year once you get that home line kind of going and see where you're at.
We'll get some Biz Bros blankets.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time, man.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Biz Bros Podcast. Like we always say, make sure to follow us, subscribe anywhere. You can just type in Biz Bros. We'll pop up. LinkedIn, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. And we'll have a next episode coming to you real soon. We'll talk to you then.
See you guys.